My name is Bormeleon. I am a Masters jungler on an A. I've been jungling for around a year. I've been playing this game for around 12 years because I have no life. Why am I picking Morgana Jungle? One of the main reasons I'm picking Morgana Jungle is because I want to play a more supportive champion out of the jungle. Morgana doesn't tend to 1v9 games, but Morgana provides a ton of utility both in engage. She can be a playmaker with her flash, but her primary kit is designed around counter engage, peel, and picks. Those are going to be the three things you're going to be looking to do with Morgana. I like her a lot because she isn't a mechanically intensive champion. She is a prediction and reaction based champion. You need to time your black shield well, you need to throw your Qs well, yada yada yada. You don't get a lot of mages out of the jungle, and a lot of people tend to be playing like duelists and AD champions, and Morgana is pretty cool because she plays like a standard mage. So when you're looking to get AP out of the jungle, which is very common nowadays, seeing as mid meta has a lot of AD champions in it with Yone and Zed and all the other AD carries that go there, Morgana is really bad into certain matchups, like into champions that farm as well as her and scrap her with auto attacks. So she's not so good into like Diana, Graves, Viegos, and Shao. These champions are really sticky, and they're really quick farmers, and they're good gankers, and they're really good at everything. And Morgana is only good at a few of those things, so you tend to want to stay away from those champions if you can. We're gonna go over her runes real quick. On Morgana, I really recommend going the domination tree primary, and in the domination tree I would only pick either Predator or Dark Harvest. Out of the jungle, you need to be having damage and pressure on the map, and the only things that are going to be giving you those are Predator, which will give you a lot of movement around the map, and Dark Harvest, which will give you a lot of damage to finish people off and give you that extra oomph that you really need to scrap with people in game. And it also comes with the best rune tree. So Dark Harvest is really good. It scales insanely well, allowing you to have damage late game, especially if you're able to pick up like 10 stacks in the first 20 minutes. You're going to be feeling really good. Predator will allow you to get your ganks off insanely. If you have red buff and you Predator at someone, they are dead. If they're extended, you already have successfully completed the gank. You just walk up and auto them. Both these runes are really good for snowballing. You should take either of them and play whichever one you feel like is better for your playstyle. I'm personally a Dark Harvestinator. I think Dark Harvest is really cool, and I like being that person who throws out a QW and walks away while they're out of vision and they just die. In the first row, we have Cheap Shot, Taste of Blood, and Sudden Impact. Sudden Impact does not make sense with Morgana. She doesn't have a dash. Taste of Blood is okay. You can get some healing, but you're really going to want Cheap Shot. It synergizes with the kit and lets you do even more damage. If you ult, Q, Everfrost, and then proc your ult on them, the CC is over 4 seconds long on some champions, and if you are able to really stick to them, you can proc it twice. This is really good. It gives you a lot of damage early onto champions if you hit your Q. In the second row, you could pretty much go any of these: Zombie Ward, Ghost Poro, or Eyeball Collection. I always go Eyeball Collection. Eyeball Collection is the snowball rune. As you can see, you get extra adaptive damage, which turns into ability power based on your kills. You can participate in a lot of kills, whether it's actually ganking successfully or black shielding someone in a fight, and you'll be collecting your eyeballs quickly. Out of the first two, I definitely recommend going Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection. I really wouldn't. Zombie Ward you can consider. And then in the last row is where we start having decisions. All four of these are good choices to make. Ravenous Hunter gives you healing. Ingenious Hunter gives you cooldown reduction on your items, which can work for Zhonya's, which works for Everfrost, which works for Predator. It works for a lot of things and can synergize really well with your items in your kit. Relentless Hunter lets you gank more because you're moving fast out of combat, which means when you're going to gank someone through river, you're going to have that extra 10 or 20 movement speed, really be able to get behind them, which is nice. And Ultimate Hunter, you are just going to have a shorter ultimate cooldown and be able to make more plays with your ult, which can be really important as Morgana. All these work the same way, by the way. These runes activate per takedown, so you have to get a takedown on every champion in the game, and then they gain stats per takedown you get. I personally like going Ravenous Hunter. It allows you to stay on the map for a long time. Let's say you get into a little skirmish with someone, you get down to like 20% health. Well, Morgana's passive, as well as being a jungler, allows her to heal a lot if she's on a jungle camp, but you can't always be against jungle camps. So Ravenous Hunter really is good because you're getting a lot of healing out of champion combat and minion combat. So if you want to shove a lane real quick, you W the wave, you're going to be getting a lot of healing off it. If you want to go onto a champion, you're going to be getting a lot of healing on it, especially if you hit your Q and your R. So at 5 stacks, it maxes out. So this would be 6% Omni Vamp and item haste and movement speed out of combat and ultimate cooldown reduction. 6% Omni Vamp is really, really nice in your abilities, and you'll be able to lifesteal a lot, specifically on your Q and your R. Your W, it has 33% reduced, and so it's not going to be giving you as much healing as you want. And Genius Hunter, I really only recommend if you're going to be taking Everfrost or Predator. It synergizes well with Zanya's, but Zanya's is not a make or break item on Morgana, in my opinion. I think it's very strong, but you really shouldn't be getting in Genius Hunter to prioritize your Zanya's. You should do it if you're going Everfrost or Predator specifically. Relentless Hunter, I recommend you take if you go Predator as well. It synergizes very well with that, in that you're going to be having 1,000,000 speed running up to people, and the champion's just going to be dead. You're going to walk up to them and press R, and they won't even be able to flash away because your movement speed is going to be insane. And Ultimate Hunter, it's more passive, but if you don't really want to worry about things, you could take it. Ravenous Hunter is the best because it gives you in combat bonuses, which will allow you to heal more and potentially just eke out a living situation, which can be important. When I'm going secondary on Morgana, I would consider going the sorcery tree or the inspiration tree. The sorcery tree I like a lot, specifically for Nimbus Cloak and water walking. I really specifically like Nimbus Cloak because it synergizes super well with Blue Smite and Flash. With her ultimate, you want to be keeping up to people, and when you flash ult someone, you want to be able to follow them so they can't break the tether, and if they flash away, they might break it. But if you have Nimbus Cloak, you're going to be able to keep up with them because you have this bonus movement speed after casting a summoner spell. You can pass through units and have bonus movement speed based on your level, and it's really, really nice for sticking to people after you press Flash R and initiate a fight, for example. Nimbus Cloak feels very, very strong. Water walking is another one I would consider. Water walking is a great all-around jungle rune to take. I take it on a lot of junglers, and essentially it gives you 25 move speed and adaptive damage when in the river. This rune is supremely powerful, and the movement speed is not to be underrated. The damage is great. You're going to be doing scuttles, you're going to be doing dragons and barons, and you're going to feel the damage, but the movement speed is super powerful. So I recommend taking this rune on a lot of junglers and Morgana if you're going to go in the sorcery tree. Other things you can consider in the sorcery tree are Gathering Storm if you want to be more passive and you have a super late game comp and you think the enemy team is going to scale. If you're getting to 30 minutes, this rune is worth it. If the game is at below 30 minutes, this rune essentially does nothing. You know, it's worse than water walking in all situations because you're getting 30 AP in the river. It's only if you think the game is going to go super late. And the only other rune I would take in the sorcery tree is Transcendence. Transcendence is more passive, obviously. It's going to give you a lot of ability haste. Gives you 10 ability haste at level 8, which is important. Ability haste is really good on Morgana for getting more Qs down, more E's out. Level 11, you get champion takedown, reduces the remaining cooldown of basic abilities by 20%. This is very niche. There are situations where you're gonna QW someone and kill someone and then get your Q cooldown back and be able to Q again, but it isn't very common, and most importantly, it doesn't happen until level 11. You're taking a rune essentially for a chance to have 20% reduced Q cooldown at level 11. You want to be focusing on your early game and snowballing the game. By level 11, you should already have a good view of like if you're strong or if you're not, and your rune choice will matter before that time, so it's important to have runes that impact the game before that time, in my opinion. The other rune choice I like to go is the inspiration tree. There are only 2 runes that you should be taking out of this tree: Cosmic Insight, and you might think that the answer I'm going with is Perfect Timing on Morgana, but out of the jungle, you shouldn't take Perfect Timing. You should take Magical Footwear. The reason for this is Perfect Timing comes online at 14 minutes. It gets reduced by getting takedowns, so maybe you'll get it at like 12 minutes or 11 minutes. And it's really, really strong on Morgana, having a stopwatch effect, but you're only getting, I think, I don't know for sure, but it's around 100 to 200 gold off Zanya, so it's not that good. And you're missing out on a lot of utility you're going to be getting from a earlier game rune, which you might notice a trend here. and that's magical footwear. If you get 2 takedowns on magical footwear, you're getting free boots at 10 minutes. If you get 3 takedowns, if you get 4 takedowns, you're getting boots all of a sudden with 4 takedowns at 8 minutes 30 seconds or 9 minutes 15 seconds. I don't, whatever. You can super snowball a game off that. And more importantly, you're getting an extra 10 movement speed, and an extra 10 movement speed is super powerful. Every bit of movement speed really matters on a jungler, and that extra 10 makes a difference, and it's 300 free gold as opposed to the less free gold you get from perfect timing. You really want to take Cosmic Insight as a jungler as well, and the reason you want to take Cosmic Insight as a jungler is as a Morgana jungler is the summoner spell Haste. Summoner spell Haste is awesome to flash more and make more plays. As Morgana, you do flash on cooldown. You do want to be walking up to a lane with your flash and flashing on them and killing them and flashing and making plays. You want to flash. You don't want to hold back on that. So I think it's really powerful. The other summoner spell Haste that's very, very important is the Smite Haste. The reason it's important is because if you smite on cooldown as a jungler with Cosmic Insight, you will have transformed Smite about 30 to 45 seconds. I forget the math on that as well. Earlier than the enemy, which means you can force an objective. If you see an enemy champion who didn't go inspiration, you can force an objective around 8 minutes and 30 seconds, which can be Herald or Dragon, and your Smite will do 450 more damage than their Smite, which means they cannot contest it. I just had a Morgana game today where I ran up to the Xin Zhao who was doing Herald, and I had transformed Smite and he didn't have it, and I just walked up and smited it at 800 health and walked away, and he couldn't do anything because I had it above him. So it's very powerful. Item haste is important on Morgana because a lot of her items are actives, and I really recommend getting to know her active items because they're super powerful. Those are specifically Zanya's and Everfrost and potentially Predator. Also get Trinket Haste, and Trinket, I always forget this, Trinket Haste is so important. On your first back as a jungler, you buy Sweeper. Even sometimes before the game starts, you buy Sweeper. You need Sweeper as a jungler. You need to know if the enemy knows where you are. You need to be sweeping where you think the enemy has vision so that you could regank or just pressure them by removing their vision. You need Sweeper on jungler, and this lets you sweep more. You just don't know if they know you're there. And if you sweep and you can know that they don't know, then you could play the gank differently. All in all, I would recommend going Dark Harvester, Predator, and then going Cheap Shot, Eyeball, Ravenous, and in your secondary you can choose to go Nimbus, Water Walking. That would be my most recommended from sorcery. And if you go inspiration, I would go Magical Footwear, Cosmic Insight. You'll feel different power levels when doing this. The sorcery tree gives you more power early. The inspiration tree gives you power around 10 minutes, and then you'll start feeling very powerful once you get your boots, and Cosmic Insight has its own power, right? But I definitely recommend checking both these trees out and playing them. In this offense, I recommend taking attack speed. I think early game, and by early game I mean the first 10 to 15 minutes, that having this 10% attack speed is more important than the extra 9 adaptive force. Even in skirmishing enemies, I think this is important. It's very rare that the extra 9 AP is going to make a difference in a skirmish, where an extra few autos might make a difference. If you get 2 extra autos in because of this attack speed, you might win the fight. You might win the fight off an auto attack that procs a Dark Harvest proc, and then you're just killing them. And it's because you had the 10% attack speed. So I would recommend always taking attack speed on Morgana and being sure to weave in a ton of auto attacks when you can. You always Morgana are going to be going flex for your second one and armor for your third one. Armor is so important because early game you're getting hit by all the jungle monsters, and that means you're taking a lot of physical damage, and this 6 armor reduces it by a lot, and it's much more health, much more effective health than having this. So you must always go flex into defense as Morgana. So these are the runes you're going to be taking for Morgana. They're pretty awesome, and yeah, check it out and try it out. When you're looking at the mythics on Morgana, there's really only two main mythics you want, and those are going to be Everfrost and Liandry's. They are providing you with either the utility or the damage profile that you're going to be looking for. Crown does not give you what you want, neither does Luden's or any of these items. Everfrost is an item that gives you ability power, health, mana, ability haste, which is all stats that Morgana loves, and most importantly, it gives you the activate. You are making up for the lost damage in Liandry's by having an active like this that just CCs someone. If you hit in that thin ray, you are rooting the enemy, and even if you miss, you are still slowing them. So you're going to be walking up to people, you're going to be behind them in top lane, and you're going to walk up and you're going to Everfrost them. And by Everfrosting them, they're going to be slowed. They're going to be trying to sidestep your Q. You're not even going to throw Q. You're going to Everfrost them, and then you'll Q. If they're rooted, then you can Q. If they're slowed, then you can Q. It's awesome. You can CC people for the entire duration of your R. You can Everfrost into Q into finishing your R and just stun people for 4 seconds straight. The other mythic I would suggest is Liandry's. Liandry's is another good mythic for Morgana. This is more straightforward. If you're not the biggest active user, and maybe if you're just learning Morgana Jungle, it'll help you like limit the number of things you need to worry about, because this is just straight damage. The weaknesses of this item are you don't have health. And one of Morgana's biggest problems is if you don't hit your Q, not only do you not do damage, but you're very likely to die to the enemy. So if the enemy is running at you and they sidestep your Q or they flash over your Q, you're dead. And if you have Liandry's, you can't, you're straight up dead and you can't do anything, and it feels really bad. Benefits of having Liandry's are you're gonna melt people, you're gonna melt objectives, you'll be able to farm faster, and if you're snowballing the game, if you run into an enemy, whether it's a tank or it's a bruiser or it's a squishy, you're gonna one-shot them, and that feels really good. You're doing percentage health magic damage to champions based on their bonus health, and you're going to burn them for maximum health damage. Awesome item. So those are the two mythics I would recommend. Again, I think you should go Everfrost. It's cheaper, it gives you utility, it gives you health, it makes you feel really good so that you don't have to throw your Q out. Next, we're going to be looking at the boots you take on Morgana. There really are only 3 boots you will consider on Morgana, or I guess there's 4 boots you'd consider on Morgana. The boots you're going to be looking at are Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Plated Steel Caps, which I call Tab Eyes, Mercury Treads, and Sork Shoes. Plated Steel Caps you should really only go if the enemy has all auto attackers. I'm saying 4. They have AD top, AD jungle, AD mid, AD carry, and then some support. That's the only time you should ever take this. Lucidity boots are nice if you want a cheap boot option. These provide a lot of utility and ability haste, and more importantly, summoner spell haste. Being able to flash more is super important on Morgana, so I really like these boots on her. They're my second favorite. Mercury Treads, they're very good for having MR. If the enemy, again, similar to Plated Steel Caps, has 4 magic damage dealers, you should think about taking these. They provide 30% tenacity, which is also so important on champions. Tenacity is one of the best stats in the game. Being able to reduce other champion CC against you is very nice. You won't die out all the time, but there's still a defensive utility, and you want to be taking utility or offensive boots on Morgana. So I'd recommend taking Sork Shoes, the mage's go-to shoes. They're providing you with 18 magic penetration, which is huge. You can see a lot of champions have low magic resist and they don't naturally grow it at levels. So you're going to be doing almost 50% magic resist reduction against most champions. It's very powerful, and I would go Sork Shoes most games. I guess we'll start out first with the Smite you're taking. As Morgana, as a jungler at the start of the game, you choose between red and blue Smite. Almost always as Morgana, I like going blue Smite. Blue Smite synergizes a lot with your kit. It allows you to stick to people and it allows you to run away from people. It also does straight up damage, which is really important, where red Smite does no damage, but it amplifies your damage into a true damage burn. So I'd recommend going blue Smite, especially for early beginner junglers. Red Smite is all around more powerful, but it's harder to use and requires better positioning and skill shot dodging. But just try blue Smite out, it's really good. Next, we're going to be looking at the other Morgana item that you're going to be building in 100% of game, and that is Zanya's Hourglass. An amazing item on Morgana. It provides you ability power, ability haste, armor, which is sometimes good, but most importantly, it's providing the active, which is the stasis. This is an item for 2,600 gold that you're pretty much only buying for the active. Morgana could run in, flash in, ultimate, CC people, and when they start throwing their ult, when Malphite ult 2, use Zanya's, you're invulnerable, and they're all of a sudden dead. The important thing to note is that I don't think you should rush this item on Morgana every single game. It is not always the best item to get second. I think it's a really good third item, and it's a really good fourth item. It's really, really, really powerful on Morgana, and you should at some point be getting it every game, no matter what. The next item we're going to look at is Shadow Flame. Shadow Flame is an insane item introduced in season 12. It gives you 100 ability power and 200 health, which is just so good, especially when you buy it with Everfrost. So much extra health as a jungler. You're getting 350 or 450 bonus health, which is a lot, especially because you're still getting so much ability power out of it. And most importantly, passive Cinder Bloom. Damage to champions benefits from 10 to 20 magic penetration based on the target's current health. At 1,000, max at 1,000 or less health. Gain the max value if the target was recently affected by shields. So if they have shields on their team, you're getting 20 magic pen, and that's nice and all. But the real way you're reading this is gain 10 magic pen at all times. And if they're low, gain 20 magic pen, which is crazy. This is so much magic pen. Combined with boots, you have 40 magic pen. That you're doing true damage to champions who don't have magic resist. This item is so strong. Very good spike. If you are snowballing, if you are ahead, I recommend buying this item second. You will one-shot people like no other. This item is super duper strong. I definitely recommend getting this second if you're like 3-0. The next item you want to consider on Morgana is an item that synergizes very well with her kit, and that's Demonic Embrace. Gives you 60 AP and 450 health. We've been over why AP and health are great stats on Morgana. She gets into melee range all the time, but the reason you're buying this is because of the passives. Dealing ability damage burns enemies for 1.2% max health magic damage every second for 4 seconds. It allows you to melt tanks. It allows you to deal consecutive burn damage, which is very nice because this will proc every time your W procs, which this happens every half second, I believe. That passive is also crazy. It's giving you a ton of extra AP based on your bonus health, which if you're going Everfrost and Shadow Flame, all of a sudden you have 200, then you have 450, and you got this item too. You have 900 bonus health, and 2% of that is 18. It's not that much. It's not that little though. 20 AP is still nice because if you think about it, this item now just has 80 AP and 450 health and those passives, right? Very, very good item. This item synergizes very well with Liandry's. Those burns together are gonna destroy tanks. And if you're into a comp that has like a tanky mid, tank jungler, and tank support, tank top, you're gonna be wanting these items to be able to deal with them. The next item I'm considering on Morgana every game is healing reduction, and that's Morellonomicon. I don't think the item itself is very good. What is really good is Oblivion Orb. 800 gold for 30 AP and 40% Grievous runes. This item is so strong. Your W is able to apply this to everyone on the enemy team. Your R does. If your team doesn't apply healing reduction well, like maybe you need to be the one to do it. If you don't have a Sona who's giving it to everyone or someone else, then maybe you need to be the one building healing reduction, in which case I'd recommend getting Oblivion Orb. Maybe second item, I would not recommend finishing Morellonomicon. Finishing this item is bait, in my opinion. I think you are paying 1,700 gold for 50 AP and 250 health, which can be put towards a better item like Demonic Embrace or Shadow Flame. The increased healing reduction is largely irrelevant. I really, really see a lot of people build this item and they'll be sitting with like, you know, like this in their inventory, and they're like, oh, I guess I'll just finish Morello. And I'm here to tell you, don't do that. Do not do that. Finish your other items first. Oblivion Orb is incredibly powerful, and you're going to want it in a lot of games. Another item we're going to be looking at now is an item that you need to be building probably third or fourth in every single game, and that is Void Staff. 65 AP, 45% magic pen, pretty straightforward, super important on junglers. What you need to be doing every single game is you need to be pressing tab, looking at the enemy team, seeing that there's no opponent on the enemy team, but in a real game, what you should be doing is every time you're backing, every time you're on a jungle camp farming, every time you're doing something you don't need to be paying attention, right? Because you QW a jungle camp. You don't need to be looking at your screen to QW a jungle camp. You press tab, you look at the enemy, you see what they're building. If you see the enemy jungler starting to build Hex Drinker, if you see the enemy with Mercury Treads, if you see top laner with Force of Nature, you see all these people starting to build Magic Resist, you stop what you're doing right now and you build Void Staff, because you won't do damage to people who are building MR. And it feels really bad because a lot of times you're like, oh, I want to finish Demonic, oh, I want to finish, well, you know, Shadow Flame. But no, you need to finish Void Staff or you don't do damage. You shouldn't build it first. Sometimes you're going to finish your Mythic and your team has 4 AP damage sources and the enemy already is building their MR. You build this item second. You go Mythic into Void Staff. If your team has too much magic damage, you know they're going to itemize MR. Most of the time, though, you're going to be able to build 2 or 3 items before Void Staff. So you should always be checking. As soon as the enemy is building MR, you are countering by building Void Staff. The last items I would consider for Morgana, I would consider Horizon Focus. Horizon Focus is okay. It's giving you a lot of AP, a lot of burst, and it's giving you utility, and the hyper shot passive is why you're buying this item. Damaging an enemy champion with a non-targeted ability, aka your Q, at over 700 range, or slowing or immobilizing, aka your Q, reveals them and increases their attack damage taken from you by 10% for 6 seconds. This also works with Everfrost. If you are needing to one-shot a target, right, if they have like a Kog'Maw comp or something, this will amplify your damage to kill that one champion. But keep in mind, it's only amping one champion, right? It's only amping against the champion that you CC. So if you're not CCing them, you're not doing extra damage, and this item, situational. The item I would recommend is Death Cap. The go-to, I'm winning the game and I'm going to win it harder in your face item. This item is 3,600 gold. It's the most expensive mage item in the game. If it's passive, magical opus, increase your total ability power by 35%. This item is crazy. If you are ahead and you just have the gold to spend, buy this item. It gives you so much damage and you'll one-shot anything in front of you. And those are the items I'd recommend on Morgana. Again, I'd say go Everfrost, sometimes Liandry's if you're feeling it, and then second item, Shadow Flame or Demonic Embrace, depending. Sometimes Zanya's if you really need it, if you're against a comp that has a ton of engage abilities that you need to be Zanya'sing. Third item, you're going to be looking to go Zanya's or Death Cap potentially, or Void Staff. And fourth item, Void Staff. So, you know, a typical Morgana build be like Everfrost, Shadow Flame, Zanya's, Void Staff, because you're not going to have item, right? These are your 4 items you're going to have. You'll have something else. You'll finish some 5th item. It won't really matter, but these will be your 4 items. 339 AP, which is a lot. 30 ability haste, a ton of utility. You're going to be doing so much magic penetration, right? 40 flat magic penetration plus 45% magic penetration, as well as having the Everfrost active and Zanya's. Super good combination of items, and I would say this is an awesome 4-item core to have. And other items, you could build the other mage items, but I really wouldn't recommend it. I think Cosmic Drive is overrated and not good on Morgana. I think Nash's is awful, Lichbane is awful, Rylai's is awful, Banshees is awful, and Archangels is of course awful. So I'd really only consider these items. You can build tank items if you want on Morgana. I've seen Dead Man's Plate Morgana, I've seen Force of Nature Morgana. They're okay, but these are the mage items you want to buy, and those are what will make you powerful as Morgana. So I really recommend trying out Morgana Jungle with Liandry's, and when you feel comfortable, going into Everfrost and really seeing if you could take over a game by just CCing people forever. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be narrating over a full jungle clear with Morgana, starting from both sides of the map. Right now, you're going to see a red side clear, and after you'll see a blue side clear. I'm taking these clips from actual gameplay where I have leashes from my team to give an accurate representation of what a Morgana jungle clear would look like. And because of that, you'll see me panning around the map, looking to lanes sometimes. The important thing will be looking at how I kite the camps, pressing the W and getting through the jungle, as well as the time that I'm doing everything and what you should try to match when you're playing Morgana Jungle. Take out your notes, class. We're going to start with this game I had where I popped off and I was able to get an advantage by just full clearing the jungle, and check out how I do this. So this is a red side start. You see we have our bot lane here releasing, and we'll go through this. You start W on Morgana, and you'll see I'm kiting the camp. I am Wing, I'm autoing and slightly moving back. With the attack speed runes, you will be doing a ton of damage to your autos. Each 46 attack is going to be very effective. You'll notice a big thing is I'm holding my W while finishing the first buff so that the cooldown is up immediately for starting the golems. And I'm also smiting the big golem and not your main buff. You want to get your W onto the golems as soon as possible, and you want to be getting the big golem down as soon as possible, followed by the two medium golems that spawn from the big golem. The most important thing is to kill all the spawns from the big golem, and I'm always kiting towards the next camp. So you see I'm moving towards the raptors as I'm finishing golems. I'm on raptors now. Raptors are easy. You W the raptor and you auto the big raptor, and it's just as simple as that. It should take 2 rotations of W, and you want to start running towards your wolves across river as you're finishing the raptor camp, and then you want to W right before you even get in vision of the wolves. You could W over the wall and just draw them onto you. You're autoing the big one. The small ones will die without worrying about it, and you're just going to be autoing it down. You want to save your W for the next camp spawn, and for blue and Gromp, this is very important on Morgana. You always want to be doing these 2 camps at the same time, so you could walk up and auto both of them, draw them into the middle, and be sure not to drop their aggro bar and W both of them at once. You are healthy enough to do this. Morgana's passive keeps her healthy. You could smite one of them if you feel like you're getting too low. So you'll see here I smite the Gromp and finish them both at exactly the same time. I've full cleared the jungle by 3 minutes and 11 seconds on Morgana, running pretty fast. I run into the Viego here. This isn't important for the clear, but I run into the Viego, who is level 3, and you could see because I was able to full clear the jungle 1 level above the enemy, even though we're both going for the same scuttle crab. And because of this, I'm able to push a huge advantage because this champion can no longer really contest me as I'm a level up, and I end up killing him here. I don't end up killing him here, but I am a level up, so it doesn't matter. I do end up killing him here. The point is I have a full level on this person, which actually makes a really big deal because I have that extra health and the extra stats that go along with it, and we wipe the team. All right, we're gonna do our Morgana jungle clear starting from blue side. Should be pretty easy. We're starting W. The big thing you're gonna notice is we're doing little like micro kiting, so the blue has to move. But the important thing is as soon as the Gromp spawns, we're gonna be aggroing it and ignoring our blue buff. We no longer care about the blue buff. The blue buff will just die passively to W, so we're gonna start focusing the Gromp. You might smite the Gromp to get some health, that's okay, and W again. And as soon as you level, you could Q it very easily. Super easy clear. W it one last time, and you can just start walking away. Kill it, walk to your raptors. Super easy. You can kite towards your camp as well. We're gonna be doing everything the same as the red side. Notice we're focusing the big one completely. Totally ignoring the small ones because they will just die to the AoE, and we're actually not needing to hold our Q until this rotation, and then you could walk away. Usually maybe you need 1 extra auto just in case. You don't want to unleash that. Crossing the mid lane at 224, pretty good. And then we're just gonna do raptors, and raptors are pretty easy too. You just do the same thing. You W them twice while auto attacking the big one. You can Q the red buff if you want to get an early start on it. And we're gonna do this. Very easy. Using everything on the red, right? You can stay away from it while your Q's active. And as soon as you finish that, you're going to your last camp. You're gonna smite the big golems as you always do. The big one is the one you need to die because the small one will just die to your AoE. And you're gonna focus the spawns of the big golem over anything. And then you just walk away. And at full clear by 3:15, you could be on Scuttle at level 4. It's just that easy. Morgana jungle clear.